So the question today is, what's the difference between marketing communications, advertising, and growth? Let's first start with marketing. And marketing is a relatively new discipline in terms of the history of business. And traditional marketers were trained in the 4 Ps: product, place, price, and promotion. And most people will think of marketing, they automatically think of promotions, and within promotions, advertising. Marketing or strategic marketing is much more than that. It's a discipline that concerns itself with the market and acts as a conduit between the organization and the market forces within which it operates. Promotions. And this is what everybody thinks marketing is. Promotions is just another word for marketing communications. They include things like advertising, social media, emails, direct mail, publicity, PR, et cetera, We could go on all day. I've identified over 42 different channels. And the dominance of marketing's advertising perceptions is reinforced by all these shows that we see, like the 1950s Mad Men era. And this is formed what Scott Galloway's called the advertising industrial complex. And it's a very dominant force within the industry. But as you'll see later, it skews the perceptions of really good marketers. The media industry likes to talk about their business because their business model is heavily reliant on advertising. So it's in their interest to reinforce this belief that advertising is an essential requirement to business success. When people think about the term advertising, what they're really referring to is a section of this promotional media construct called paid media. But there's actually 3 types of media. Paid media is one, but there's also owned media and earned media. Let's talk about paid media first. Paid media is when you explicitly pay other people to mention your brand to their audiences. You're paying to leverage somebody else's medium and somebody else's audience, which they have curated. You're basically leasing temporary access to that audience at a cost. Earned media. This is the second type of media, and this is where the lines can get a tiny bit blurry between what's paid and what's free. Earned media is when you persuade other people to talk about you. It would be naive to think, though, that TV stations, newspapers, YouTubers, and other channels are simply sitting there waiting to give exposure to brands for free. That's not how it works. Usually there's some kind of payment that takes place, but the source can be less direct. The publisher may get, for example, free products or perks or indirect payments or tickets to events, or sometimes the coverage is included on the back of a paid advertising deal at a much larger cost. Earned media is more persuasive than paid media because customers view the credibility of the source message a lot higher than they do with paid media. When you have somebody else talking about your product that isn't from that company, people tend to trust it more. So finally, the third type of media is owned media, and this is where you control the medium and curate your own audience. You can get a chance to talk at your target market directly through this channel at zero or very low cost. And this really wasn't possible for quite a long time for businesses, apart from things like physical store signage, which they owned. But now, with the internet, companies can curate their own websites, they can create a following on social media, and even create their own YouTube shows. And once you've built a large enough audience, it can be a really cost-effective way to communicate to your market. An email list, for example, is really powerful if you have a good and big enough one for a lot of B2B companies. Earned and owned media is something that marketing-savvy companies like Tesla use to their advantage, and they use it to compensate completely for paid media. In fact, Tesla famously doesn't spend any money on paid media, and they recently fired their PR department as well. An important thing to note here, though, is that a lot of brands who rely on marketing or advertising agencies will show an innate bias towards paid media at the expense and the opportunity sometimes of owned and earned media. So what is growth then? It's actually a pretty strange term, and it's really what marketing departments used to do to grow the brand. But there's a huge difference between what I would call a marketer and a growth marketer. The growth process was really born from the Silicon Valley tech growth process. And this is a general process that's nothing new, but ironically, it's sort of coming back full circle to what the strategic marketing process used to be. And the catalyst for growth's recent popularity was the publication of Sean Ellis's book, Hacking Growth, in 2017. And he's sort of the first person that's attributed with popularizing this term back in 2010. And if you read the book, you'll notice that he's worked with Dropbox in the early days to create a very powerful user referral system, which caused usage to explode. And Peter Thiel and Elon Musk's PayPal story is full of growth hacks that were famous for finding exploits in the systems of eBay and using it to their own advantage. And Hotmail was very famous back in the day for adding a hyperlink at the bottom of every email, which encouraged people who didn't use Hotmail to sign up for free. Airbnb used an automatic Craigslist listing program to give exposure to some of their properties, and that was one of the big catalysts behind their early growth. And growth hacking was all about finding lower cost ways of harnessing the internet's power of distribution and network effects. Core to this discipline is thinking full funnel and holistically about all the different ways a company could acquire more customers. It's less about ad campaigns or creating videos or building brand awareness or talking about how awesome your product is. It's more focusing on the outcome, not the upstream actions that you're taking, and reverse engineering that growth back into your process. An important thing to note here is the bad rap that the ad industry got during the dot-com bubble, which burst in 2001. A lot of very hyped up internet companies were spending big on traditional ads and ad agencies, only for a lot of those strategies to completely fail. When you work in a tech firm in a growth role, you're working very closely with the product team, which generally consists of software engineers and product managers. And you create these cross-functional teams with engineers, with product, with design, sometimes marketing. And the growth lead will be tasked with optimizing some form of growth metric that pushes the whole company forward. And this is generally things that are related to customer acquisition, product usage, customer retention, revenue growth, etc. Your focus isn't on marketing communications output or building brand awareness. So as you can see, the skill set of a growth person is a lot more varied than just marketing, comms, or advertising. They do have their own biases and blind spots as well, though. They tend to naturally skew towards a preference for digital marketing channels, and they really don't know much about how brands work or the branding process in general. So as you can see, ironically, growth is essentially what marketing used to be in terms of the 4 Ps. But as ad agencies took hold, a lot of marketers were separated from those other Ps, and Silicon Valley hated the word marketing so much they had to rebrand it to growth. So we've kind of almost gone full circle. And again, these are just terms. It's really the work that matters. And if you understand marketing fundamentals, these haven't changed a lot over the years. You'll still be affected no matter what role you go into, B2B, B2C, tech, or non-tech. And you've probably seen some tech companies now that are exhausting a lot of the yields from these digital channels, and their growth has plateaued. And ironically, now they're hiring brand marketing roles and turning back towards traditional marketing departments as the tech scene becomes more competitive. Another big difference between growth and marketing is the mentality of this campaign mindset versus growth loops. And traditional marketers will think in campaigns. They think in brand campaigns, they think in yearly campaigns, quarterly campaigns, campaign. And that's because ad agencies sell campaigns via pitches to their clients. And growth roles, in contrast, though, are more about this circular feedback process that includes like a flywheel momentum. And they think non-linear, always on, and compounding growth effects. And generally, it's about creating a circular process from data or research to strategy, to tactical execution, to measurement, and then back around again. And they use each of these stages to improve the next stage.